Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Ridgecrest City Council for July 7th, 2021. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order first with our roll call.
Mayor Bruin.
Here.
Mr. Heyman.
Present.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Present.
Mr. Blades.
Present.
Ms. Breeden.
Present.
5 present. We have a quorum.
First action on our agenda this evening is approval of the agenda for this evening's meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second. I have a motion second, please. Kyle's first off. Okay. Next item is public comment on items on the closed session. We have 2 closed session items, personnel matters, labor negotiations, and conference with the real property negotiator. Is there any public comment on either of the closed session items? Hearing none, I will take no further public comment, and we will adjourn into closed session. We'll return to regular session at 6 p.m. Gary, are we ready? Am I early? I can't see him.
It's 5:59.
It's 5:59? Okay.
Just turned 6.
You rock and roll.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and we will go ahead and return out of closed session. And we will go ahead and begin our regular section by asking everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Scott, if you don't mind.
I pledge allegiance to
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Solomon, if you'll lead us in the invocation, please.
Please join me in prayer if you would. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this city of Ridgecrest where we live in. Lord, as we celebrated Independence Day a couple of days back, Lord, I ask you to pour out your love, life and liberty on this country. Lord, let this country be a beacon of hope, a beacon of liberty, and beacon of freedom. Lord, I pray for our leadership. Give them your guidance. I pray for the troops who are in harm's way, who are getting freedom for many foreign countries. Lord, protect them from all evil. I pray for all the people who are here today. Lord, be with the City Council as we deliberate many matters. Let our decisions be useful to this community. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, first item is going to be attorney report of closed session. Lloyd?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lloyd Pilchin, City Attorney. City Council met in closed session. 2 topics identified on the agenda: personnel matters, labor negotiations, and the other item is conference with real property negotiator involving 4 properties identified by assessor parcel number. On all items, direction was given. No reportable final action was taken. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We have one presentation this evening, proclamation for Homelessness Awareness Month. Do I have anybody from the group here? Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and come up to the podium, and then I'm going to ask your group to come up with us if we can. If I can have the entire council at the podium. I know, that's why I'm teasing you. That's why I said you again, teasing. Okay. So I have a proclamation here that I'm going to go ahead and read, and this is a proclamation of the City of Ridgecrest, California, proclaiming July 2021 as the Homelessness Awareness Month in Ridgecrest. Whereas homelessness is a public health crisis experienced by hundreds of thousands of individuals across the United States, and whereas homelessness is a complex issue that impacts every individual in our community, including those currently experiencing homelessness, those at risk of experiencing homelessness, or other forms of housing instability, and those who have stable and permanent housing, and whereas the Bakersfield-Kern County Continuum of Care for 2021 point-in-time count identified 2,150 individuals experiencing homelessness in Kern County, of whom 569 had shelter while 1,581 were unsheltered, sleeping in parks, empty buildings, cars, and other places not meant for human habitation. And whereas the goal of the Bakersfield-Kern Regional Homeless Collaborative is that homelessness be a rare, brief, and non-occurring experience, and that every person in Kern County have a permanent place to call home. And whereas Kern County is home to hundreds of individuals who work tirelessly every day to provide housing and wraparound services for individuals experiencing homelessness, and whereas the purpose of this proclamation is to educate the public about the many reasons people experience homelessness, recognize the contributions of homeless service providers, and increase the public's understanding of ways that they can be a part of the solution to homelessness through personal involvement and referral of individuals to homeless services. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of Ridgecrest does hereby proclaim July 1st to July 31st, 2021 as Homelessness Awareness Month. Be it further resolved that the City Council of Ridgecrest encourages all citizens and residents to educate themselves about the myriad of causes of homelessness and support local efforts to address homelessness. And those of you who don't know, this is Miss Carol Beecraft, who I know as the High Desert Women's Shelter, but I also know that she has endlessly crusaded for taking care of this community as well as those who are in crisis. And it's my honor to present that. Thank you. Would you like to say a few words?
I'd just like to share today we were in Lake Isabella with a group of people who are part of the collaborative, and we're working on getting some housing there. We had a really productive meeting, and there was lots of people who wanted to be part of it. So although we are the Women's Center and we provide safe shelter for women, men, and children who are victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, we also have a large homeless population in this community that don't have services. Oftentimes they come to us just for water. When it's hot, we let them come into our office and cool off. So we're trying to find some services for those folks as well. They don't qualify for our program at the shelter we currently have. So we're going to work with the collaborative, Bakersfield-Kern Collaborative, to get more resources for all the communities of Kern County. It's not just Bakersfield. They think Bakersfield County, it's Kern County. So that includes Ridgecrest and our outlying areas that we serve. So thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it. Thank you, City of Ridgecrest.
Thank you. Can I have the whole group come on up, and we're going to do a group photo front? If you have something to add, you can go out there. That screen is bad. Bad screen. Screen bad. Good. Thank you, guys. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment on items not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council might not take any action on any item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes, and the total time is limited to 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name, We'll go ahead and begin with public comment from the floor. Is there any public comment from the floor? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the phones? Just another minute. Okay. Seeing no public comment, we'll move on to council announcements. I'm going to go ahead and begin council announcements with recognition, and then I'd like an opportunity to have a council announcement for myself at the very end, if possible. With recognition of the passing of Mr. Dave Matthews. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Mr. Matthews, he has been a staple inside this room for the last 20, 30 years. I've been part of this committee for 17, and I can tell you he's been here the entire time I know. Mr. Matthews passed on June, it was like June 20th, I believe. June 19th or 20th. He had just passed his 90th birthday. He had been at council the week before, and Mr. Blades drove him home, as he often had, and this was the kind of man that was the ideal of citizenship in our community. And I stress that anyone out there who understands the value of public input understands what Mr. Matthews was, and I said in an editorial that I wish I had earned only 1/10 of his respect, and we wish him obviously Godspeed. But more importantly, we felt that Mr. Matthews needed to continue to be part of this room, and I'm going to go ahead and take a little walk down there and remove that red cover. So on behalf of the City Council, more importantly, the City of Ridgecrest, who was also their staff, had the idea. What we did is we created a little memorial plaque that is attached to one row of seating. It has a quote in regards to citizenship from President Ronald Reagan, and recognizes Mr. Matthews' passing and in gratitude for his commitment to this community. Citizenship starts and ends with you as the public, and we thank you for your participation. And there we go. I'm just a way for him to always be part of this room. Dave, I hope if you're hearing us from the pearly gates that I earned the right to be your mayor, and on behalf of a community, we are grateful for your service to this community. Any other council announcements? We'll start with Ms. Breeden.
No.
I guess I should mention the mayor and I were out at an event this morning with Caltrans, CHP were there. We're talking about Clean California and something that got passed in the most recent state budget. And I just want to mention it real quick since there's really another place to mention it. We, as you know, around town, there's always a lot of volunteer organizations that are trying to get out and get the city cleaned up. There was a recent event by me, but that was nothing compared to what other organizations have done, Ridge Project, and I could go on and on, but I'm not going to belabor. $1.5 billion was passed in the state budget to start addressing litter and to clean up public spaces and other empty spaces. So I'm just reading it off for the public just so they know, and because we were a part of it this morning. There's $418 million for litter abatement, $430 for state beautification projects, $444 million for local beautification projects, $75 million for arts grants, $50 million for public education, $83 for project design, construction, and local support. So I have a whole fact sheet here if anybody's really that curious. It goes on to explain how jobs will be created and so on and so forth. But it was called a media event, but I think it was, well, it was a media event, but it was good to just make the public aware of what's going on and then how the city and Caltrans can work together.
I think they said the goal that was it 18,000 that they did the year before? It was that they budgeted like 18,000 garbage trucks of clearance a year, something like that, and this will up it to 81,000 garbage trucks worth of clearance a year. So you're talking about almost a fourfold increase in the amount of litter removal they're hoping to achieve.
Right. And
Something to that effect. if I
Yep,
remember.
and the CHP wanted to reiterate they were going to increase the amount of ticketing for litter, and so.
And I will say, if you ever haven't picked up along the fence on Inyokurn Road, it's interesting, and you get some interesting things. I think there was at least one sock. I know I pulled a bra, and I know that there was lots of cardboard, and it was certainly interesting. But what was great about it is getting the relationships with Caltrans and to see that there's a commitment to our community. And they also, I just wanted to share, years ago we started the median program, and they said, I think at least 3 times, I heard it this morning, that our median program with the art is an example of rural.
They used it in Sacramento when they were talking about the art beautification projects.
And, so that was very encouraging. My last council announcement is on December 16th when I was sworn in. We were in the midst of the peak of COVID. And unfortunately, fortunately and good decision, we closed the council chambers for that meeting. But my mother did not get to see me get sworn in as mayor when she was traveling from Roseburg, Oregon. My mother's in the audience with my stepfather, Gary. I just wanted to say thank you for being here. Thank you for the years of support you gave me to get me to here. And that was my council announcement. So thank you, Mom. Okay. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and non-controversial by city staff. Consent items may be approved by one motion if no member of the council or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered in listed sequence, with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the city council concerning the item before action is taken. I will now read each item. Okay. If motion for this, motion for that. Item number 1 is the approval of the draft minutes of the Ridgecrest City Council dated June 16, 2021. Item number 2 is to receive and file the Ridgecrest Tourism Improvement District fiscal year 2021 annual report. There is a resolution regarding the annual assessments for the Drainage Benefit Assessment District number 2016-1 and adoption of resolution approving the annual engineer's report, and 2, ordering the levy and collection of assessments for fiscal year 2021-22. A resolution regarding the annual assessments for the Consolidated Landscaping and Lighting District number 2012-1, and adoption of the resolution approving the annual engineer's report and ordering the levy and collection of assessments for fiscal year 2021-22. Authorization for the city manager, Ron Strand, to sign the notice of completion for Phase 1 of ADA Transition Plan Project, for the city clerk to file the notice of completion, and for city staff to release retention in the amount of $48,377.10 to the contractor, SunCal Construction, within 30 days after recording of the notice of completion. And item number 6 is authorization for the city manager, Ron Strand, to sign the notice of completion for the City of Ridgecrest Sewer System CCTV inspection project, for the city clerk to file the notice of completion, and for the city staff to close the project. Is there any member of the council which would like to have an item pulled from the consent calendar?
Item 2, please.
Item number 2.
I was going to ask the same thing.
Okay. Is there any member of the public that would like to have an item pulled from the agenda? Hearing none. Item number 2 is pulled for discussion, and I would like to go ahead and, do I go ahead and do a motion now for the approval of the other 5? Yeah, sequentially, yes. Can I call for a motion for the approval of the consent calendar excluding item number 2?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Item number 2, receive and file Ridgecrest Tourism Improvement District fiscal year 2021 annual report. I believe we have members of the RACVB here for any questions. Okay. Let me go ahead and ask one of the RACVB members to go and come up front, and then we'll go ahead and let Councilman Roger Rottenham. I'm trying.
I'd
Got
have to
it.
have a seat, yeah.
Huh?
Get comfortable.
Get comfy. And Solomon, since you pulled it, I will let you begin.
Okay. I just had a couple of questions. Thanks for being here, Kerry. I appreciate that. So does this RTID have a financial year ending? Is it June ending or September ending?
September ending. Our fiscal year is October to September.
Okay.
So, and actually, with all the transition and everything at the RACVB, this is a little late getting complete this year. Usually you'll see it more towards like November timeframe.
Okay.
And so you'll see it at that time next year. Because it is a forward-looking document, the council will receive it closer to the beginning of our fiscal year in the
Okay.
future.
So, yeah, you answered my question without
Okay.
asking. That's good. So, couple of things. And the Ridgecrest Sports Commission, so that's part of RACVB, I think, right?
Yes.
So, what are the activities you have under that?
So, the Ridgecrest Sports Commission is something that maybe 2 years ago the RACVB brought in under our umbrella. And the idea there was that we have the staff and it kind of falls more under our wheelhouse, recruiting events to the area, promoting events in our area. So similarly to what I've spoke about, like with the off-road events, those types of things, that falls under the umbrella of the Sports Commission. Any sporting events that we bring to the area. Recently, we've had 2 softball tournaments, and we have 2 more scheduled for the year. And those also fall under the umbrella of the Ridgecrest Sports Commission. So, excuse me, we financially sponsor those at times. We lend support and advertising, staffing, those ways. And those are ways that the Sports Commission supports those events.
Thank you. On page 6, item 4, assessment. It says, stays by any officer or employee of a foreign government who is exempt by reason of express provision of federal law. So they don't pay the 3% fee, right? Is that what you're trying to say here?
I am going to be honest and say that I'm not super familiar with that. And I don't know if maybe Mr. Strand is, but I don't want to try and guess on that. I can look into it and get back to you.
Okay. So, my reason for asking that question is we have RAF and other military people coming. So I was curious to know, does this mean that they don't pay this 3%?
I do believe they do. We have been asked to waive that in the past, and we've declined.
Okay.
All right, so the option's there, but.
Yes, there's an option, and we've declined.
But generally they charge, I think, right? The hotels, if they are staying at Spring Hill Suites. Okay. Because we don't want to lose that 3%.
Absolutely, right.
Yeah.
And that's why we decline. I can explore that further and then let the council know the
Okay.
official kind of policy there.
Okay, I appreciate that. So that's all I have for the time being. Councilwoman Bede.
The only thing I wanted to say was a statement and a question. I appreciate what the RACVB is doing. I understand how much it contributes to this community, and I'm wondering if you can educate the public just a little bit, approximately how much money is returned. Do you have any idea? Because I didn't see it in here. By the people that are brought in that stay at the hotel, that spend at the restaurants and spend at the grocery stores and spend at other facilities and stores. Can you give us an estimate approximately how much money has been returned to the community by those?
I'm gonna give you the same answer. I don't want to guess, but I would be happy to pull that and come back maybe next time at public comment, and I could share that.
Okay, I should have given you a heads up, because I know the last year when you gave the report, it was a significant amount of money, And I wanted the community to understand the benefits are paid by the people coming into this
Yes.
community. It is not assessed by on any individual in this community, and we all benefit from it.
Right,
And
absolutely.
that includes the hotels as well as the places where the money is spent. So I think it's a significant impact, and I don't want to quote what you said last time, because I know it's not as high as it was because we went through the pandemic.
Right.
But I am very proud of the work that you do, and you will continue to do. So thank
Thank
you
you.
for your service.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have one question on the page 8, item 5, surplus and other funding. It states that there's no surplus to be carried over for the fiscal year 2020-21. There's a deficit in the amount of $20,268. And so over on page 5, under costs, the diagram that shows sales, marketing, administration, contingency, city fee totals of 100%. So is that 20,000 deficit included in the overall budget for 2021, or is it to be carried over above and outside of
The
that
first
amount?
thing you said, it was included in the first.
It's included in that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what I assumed, but
Yeah.
thanks.
Kyle, anything? Nope. Neither here. Okay, any member of the public have any questions in regards to item number 2? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of item number 2?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, next item on the agenda is item number 7. Item number 7 is a resolution to approve the professional service agreement with the firm Wilden Engineering in the amount of $68,994 to provide design and construction engineering for the city yard solar addition to the bus shade structure and addition of electric bus charging stations construction project, and authorize the city manager, Ron Strand, to sign the agreement. It's Mr. Reed's turn in the hot seat.
Good evening, council. How are you guys tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good. This is we have we attained a CMAQ grant for which we are going to utilize at our corporate yard off Ridgecrest Boulevard. It is for basically the first step for the solar charging stations and things like that for the electric vehicles and the electric buses, in which transit is working towards getting to. I forget what the consult. This is obviously just the design portion of the project, and and construction engineering management for it. This is not the actual contract for the yard. That will be done later at a later date when we come back with you guys with basically a design package. And with that, I'm open for any questions or anything really, obviously. My mind went blank for a minute.
So this is just design.
So yeah, so this is going to be design work. This CMAQ grant this is kind of like a design bid, or God, holy moly, a design build style solar yard addition. It's going on our already constructed bus shade structure. So a lot of the major structure is up, but this is more of the infrastructure that's required for chargers and the actual solar panels that are going to be there to help facilitate so we don't have a huge electric bill for the chargers and things like that. So this is literally mostly electrical, some minor structural, meeting accessibility requirements to these, things like that.
Is this going to use the buses that go out to Inyakern? Will those be the electric buses too?
That is our hope. We are actually working, we just had to put in our notice for the SB1 money for transit, And everything we are leaning towards right now in transit is going green, is going to the electric vehicle fleet. We've had some recent issues with some of our buses with transmissions. Our fleet is getting older, so we're trying to make a push to head towards green because more of green are quote-unquote California efficient vehicles that we have. It makes you more eligible for more grant funding and things of that nature. So this is a crucial first step in being able to start that process, because without chargers, it's pretty hard to have an electric vehicle.
I have been criticized, and I use that word loosely, because I have a hybrid vehicle, and I've had it for a little over a year, and I filled up with 3 tanks of gas in the entire year, and so consequently, I'm not supporting KERCOG, which supports our roads, and that kind of information that is perceived by some as not a fair assessment of how I use my dollars and not supporting our roads by spending the gas tax. Is that been an issue we're going to address, of how much we are saving and how much we may be impacted by it? Because I want to see electric. I know the state has put mandates on how we're all going to be electric vehicles in X number of years. I want to know if in the long run we are truly not impacting our gasoline tax dollars that come back to the city through KERCOG.
You know, honestly, I could not answer that.
I know it isn't a question for this. I just want us to be able to understand that in doing this, we are looking at our future, and we are understanding we are doing what we're going to be mandated to do. And I'm very proud of the city for standing up and doing that now.
And you are correct. We will eventually be mandated into doing this and having electric vehicle fleet for transit. We've already seen the signs of it coming. I mean, pretty much every grant for transit right now is pushed towards some sort of clean, green efficiencies. So it's very prevalent which way California is pushing the transit system. So
This will also help us beat our fare box ratio.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's,
And I wouldn't fret too much. I'm sure they're going to find a way to monetize the electric vehicles to be able to pay for the roads.
I'm not worried about the state being able to find a way to get that money back from us. I know they will.
And I'm going to go ahead and just do the reiteration that, you know, these are small steps towards a much larger need over time, but EV charging in this community is a need that is not yet fully addressed, but is going to come at us like a freight train once it starts. Mm-hmm. And I stress that because of the high education of our community, the type of recruiting we're doing for the base, and eventually, if there's a demand point for electric vehicles, which we already know there is, anybody who doesn't know that, go to Classic Burger on a Sunday afternoon, and you will suddenly be very keenly aware of the EV charger need. This is a step.
Many of our hotels, a couple of our hotels are putting in charging facilities to accommodate their own. So we need to be looking at that and understanding that.
I can't wait to hear from you after meeting who, because I'm waiting to find those people.
One of the other things, just before I did misspeak about this, this is all construction engineering too. So this includes like inspection, RFIs, submittals, things like
Grant
that.
management. This is the whole kit and caboodle.
It's the kit and caboodle.
Because I was going to challenge you on the dollar amount, but I went to the scope of work and went, okay.
Yeah.
And just making sure, so.
So and it's got materials testing in it too. So and just keep in mind that this is a time and material not to exceed price. So this is what we feel is the worst case. Mm-hmm. And hopefully with the contractor that we get for this will be proficient and it won't require near as much inspection, won't require as much materials testing and things like that. But as you know, in the past, we've had some issues on a few projects, so we want to make sure that we've got the necessary tools in place to make sure that we get what we pay for.
As long as you know any future problems, we'll blame you.
I'm just here, so I won't
You're
get
just
fined,
here, okay.
Right?
Any other council discussion? Any public discussion in regards to item number 7? Hearing none, I'll bring it back. Any further discussion? Do I have a motion for approval of item number 7?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Motion second.
Five ayes, motion carries.
Don't move far. You're up again. Where do you think you're going? Okay. We're not letting you out yet. Okay. Item number 8, resolution to amend a professional services agreement with Wilden Engineering in the amount of $41,210 to provide a revised biological technical report, preparation of regulatory agency applications for approval application for a FEMA hazard mitigation grant program, and 100% design plans for the Bowman Channel between South Norma Street and South China Lake Boulevard. Said plans, specifications, and reports will be included in part of the Bowman Channel Arc Culvert under South Norma Street and check dam structures flood control project. Mr. Reed.
So again, this is an existing project that we already have council resolution for, to do a check dam system as well as some road repaving at Norma to make the intersection of Norma and Bowman a full, basically built out. It's going to mitigate some of the existing flooding problems we have over there. The channel's washed out in a couple spots. We've got failing infrastructure under the road, things of that nature. So what this is we already are having to do the majority of the biological for these check dams. So what this is basically, if we're going to do biological in this area, I find it that we need to, if we're going to do something in there and we're going to do biological there, let's do the whole kit and caboodle and get a set of plans that we can actually build a section of the channel. So we've got a decent amount of money in our drainage impact fees right now. And in my opinion, the biggest need for our drainage impact fees right now is our major infrastructure to get water out of town. And in my opinion, that's where I think the council should be focused on, is getting our water that we have. We all know how bad the the east side of town can get when it rains. And if we start putting this channel through, that's how we get the water out of town. So what this is to complete another major portion of the channel that will help aid us in getting the north side water to the, not the north side, I always feel like it's north because it's uphill, but get the west side water more towards the east side.
And this is just an expansion on the scope of the work based on the grant, correct?
Correct. And then we had with Heather so graciously forwarding me all the grant stuff she finds, and Ron pushing us to find as much money as we can. We were up against a crunch for a deadline for this one, so we don't feel we have the staff to do all this in the time that it requires. So we would like Wildan to be able to prepare this grant application for us as well as the design plans, and we just felt like if you're doing the grant, we might as well have a plan for this whole section of channel so we're seeing what we're getting.
Okay. So let's start with council comments from left to right. Kyle, we will let you be first.
Not right now.
Okay, Kyle's
I had
deferring.
it. Hey, Gary, I have a picture too of where this is.
Yeah, it's in the packet.
Okay. I was wondering if, I think we have it set up so we could put it in.
I mean, it's from Norma. It's from Norma to Bowman.
It's literally from about 200 feet west of Norma to the existing improvements that
To
Walmart
the
put
existing
in on.
concrete dam
Correct.
area that Walmart put in.
Correct.
Yeah. Is if any council member needs to see it, I have it here.
You guys always tell me to give you pictures, and I gave you a picture this time.
Yeah, but we don't sure what
Not on
format
the
it's in.
screen.
It's not on the screen. Good
What-
answer.
I say what picture?
Yeah.
I took special time to make it.
Travis's imagination has run wild yet again. We'll go right to left this time then. Peg, do you have any questions?
No.
I don't have any questions. Well, maybe I have a little bit of a question, but as far as the drainage up the hill, coming off of future developments, is that going to increase flows into this channel?
That's further downstream. That's further downstream from where this
But the
is.
south or the east end of it, of that channel, you know, as they get closer down toward Walmart, you know, in the past how water flows, you know, like down College Heights,
Yeah,
you know,
so
College Boulevard.
Based on what I've seen and what I can remember off the top of my head from the drainage master plan and from what I've seen from the Walmart study with stormwater, eventually that water will eventually make its way into the channel, but that is all on the eastern side of China Lake Boulevard. So there's still, basically that channel was improved to, per the master drainage plan, it was improved to where the concrete stops. From there, it was simply just set up to drain and daylighted at Sunland. So the improvements are only in, obviously, to that, the edge of that property line. There's still more work that has to be done to the
Further
east side of
east
that.
of it, yeah.
And we have right-of-way to basically get it all the way across 178 and out into the playa onto the base.
So it's going to be kind of a meshing entity of water once it gets across on the east side by Walmart.
Correct.
And then on down. So it's what I'm getting at. It's pretty important that we have this fixed and in a position to be able to mesh well with the other water going out.
I would agree with you, and I think one of the other major things that contribute to this channel needing to kind of be a priority is the fact that we already know we have a little bit of an issue with stormwater on the east side of town. And if you really look at where the majority of our building's going to be from now on, it's going to be more up the hill. So you're going to see more development. Most of your development now on the west side in the city is close to being built out. So you don't really have a ton of vacant land there anymore. There's some, don't get me wrong, there is some. But the majority of your building now you're going to see start moving up the hill, expanding out west of Norma, things like that up the hill. So the infrastructure is definitely something that needs to be in place to be able to get the water out of town.
Yeah.
There's a substantial amount of residential land there in that area.
Exactly.
To be developed.
Exactly. And you're absolutely right. Down towards Upjohn Park, there's more
Right.
to be developed down there. There's
Right. But even
substantial
right there
areas.
around the improvement area, there's between Bowman and going all the way down to Downs. I mean, there's a lot of empty land out there.
Correct.
And there's-
I think that's commercial, though, if I remember right.
No, from Bowman down all the way down to the future apartment complex. That's all. It's all just empty. It's just not been sold, as far as I understand. There's a bunch of different residential pieces there.
Oh, then you
Yeah.
very well may. I just thought there was a couple commercial pieces in there
Yeah.
because I've seen signs and maybe the signs are just wrong. But
Who knows? We're both wrong. Does this have any impact on the apartment?
not to my knowledge. I think the apartment is all self-contained, and they were going to eventually dump into the channel. But from my recollection, and Ron could correct me if I'm wrong, I only saw the water plans back in the day, but I know they were going to have inlets or outlets from their site that went into the Bowman Channel that would affect the Norma crossing that we're working on in that section of the channel downstream. But like I said, this is more to mitigate what we see right now, where we see failing infrastructure. Finish building Norma out so it's full to its full width, so we don't have that bottleneck there at the end, and basically start setting this channel up to where we can get the amount of water that we think could potentially be in there out. So,
Solomon? Kyle?
Is this 41,000 going to get the job done, or we have to do more later for in-design work?
So for the design work, this is per Wildan's proposal. This is for 100% design plans from 200 feet west of Norma to China Lake Boulevard. So as far as design is concerned, I don't think we will need to come back to you for more. Where I think there will be something that we will eventually come back for you is probably if we decide to put the project out to bid, once we have engineers' estimates and we decide that we want to go forward with the project, that's when we'll be back for bidding assistance and things of that nature.
Understood. Thank you.
But it'll be shovel-ready, which means that we can actually
Correct.
look at.
And that's what we're trying to get to apply for this grant, so we have a viable project that we can show
If anything
FEMA.
kicks free on the infrastructure, then we got something to go with.
And in our opinion, just from reading the quick excerpt of what the grant is and how we would fit into it, I didn't read the 175-page document or whatever it is, but the 3-page overview of what the grant is. I think this project fits greatly into the scope of what it is because This is our one of two major drainage devices that we have in our town. And if you look at our flood maps, we show huge floodplains in this area. And by putting this infrastructure in, and especially with this being on the FEMA list now, to have the flood maps re-looked at, that's not the word I wanted to be, but reassessed and redrawn to fit what drainage structures are in place right now. Having another section of that could affect, I'm going to say, 1,000 to 1,500 homes in Ridgecrest on what their flood insurance rates would be.
Yep.
So it could be a very crucial piece to our community and on saving some of our residents some money on flood insurance as well.
Well, I want to thank you. You did this is very nice. I just want to make sure that you understand that if you're not prepared to be able to speak to all 175 pages, you probably shouldn't even mention it.
Was that a threat or a promise?
Thanks for that. Duly noted.
Duly noted.
Was that a threat or a promise?
Thanks for that. Duly noted.
Just messing with you. This is the bottom line is getting things that are shovel ready is in our best interest. Please keep looking for shovel ready opportunities, because I would love for us to have literally, oh, there's money and you need a shovel ready. Here's Rolodex number 75. It fits perfectly. Rolodex number 122. Because we know that that's the likelihood that that's going to happen here in the next couple of years in terms of both administratively as well as economically is great to have ready. So great job. Did you have any other questions? Okay. Do I have a motion for approval of item number 8?
And you want to go to the public?
Comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did it again. Is there any comments from the public on item number 8? Thank you. I do that I when we get to the point where I think we're done, then I told you.
Before I had to.
My
Thank you,
friends,
sir.
hello. I'm Skip Gorman. I live within the city of Ridgecrest in that little balkanized block along Bowman Road. Thanks for the cleanup, Kyle. I drive by the drainage ditch we call the Walmart drainage ditch. It all started with the first Walmart. It got extended mightily with a second Walmart. All of us along Bowman Road know deep in our hearts it'll take 3 more Walmarts for us to get as far as Mirror Lake, when that ditch will actually have a meaning and a purpose. I'm looking forward to that. I seek for this master plan that you'll be involved in to look into the future all the way into Mirror Lake. Hopefully that'll happen. I have a question that others may be thinking about as they're watching this online, if they're lucky. What's a biological technical report? How does biological fit into a drainage ditch? Why is that word there?
So the reason why that's in there right now is anytime you look at federal funding or you look at state funding, you have to mitigate any kind of species. And because over the past years, the channel has, dare I say, not been maintained the way it probably should have, that has now become habitat again for wildlife. So in order to get any sort or go after any sort of grant or federal funding, that has to be mitigated, that has to be gone over with a biologist to prove that there is nothing in there that we are going to harm.
My friend, thank you. That was a good, comprehensive response. I appreciate it. The struggle to keep the ditch open is going to need sustenance throughout its life. Weeds happen.
So just to add to your weeds happen comment, one of the things we are looking at is they have, unfortunately, a lot of these channels have spillways, and we obviously want the water to perk back into the ground, not so much fly out of town. But one of the things we are exploring to try to keep some of the weeds down, and it's obviously still in the early design phases, is They have, and I'm drawing a blank on the actual true name of it, but basically it's where you mix concrete in with the dirt. It's called soil cement. They have soil cement walls, and that makes weeds growing in them. It's a lot harder for the weeds to grow through soil cement.
Sure.
So that's something that we're going to look at because we have seen coming off of Bowman Road, there is some erosion that's happening. I'm sure everybody knows where it crosses on Bowman. It's pretty easy to see, and you see where it washes out under the fence. So those are all things that we are trying to take into account and figure out how we can collect that water, get it safely into the channel where it doesn't create a big nuisance and a big mess for our streets team and to clean up. So we're trying to do everything we can to make the maintenance more manageable and less labor intensive.
My friends, thank you. I appreciate your responsiveness.
Thank you, Mr. Gorman. Any other public comment? Seeing none, bring it back for council discussion. Any other further discussion? Do I have a motion on item number 8?
So moved.
Second.
I was going to say, do I have to say
5
sorry to
ayes,
Scott
motion
House?
carries.
I thought it for a minute there. You were going to pull a Kyle on me and make me say sorry to you too before you were going to vote.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Okay, next item is item number 9. This is introduction and first reading an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest amending the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding zoning code definitions. Ms. Spurlock.
So this year, when we did the annual progress report for the general plan and the housing element, upon reviewing it, at the time the housing element was done in 2015, there was several definitions that the housing element identified that needed to be adopted into the zoning code. So during that meeting with the Planning Commission, we discussed moving forward with adopting those definitions. So these are them. This has gone to Planning Commission, and they have recommended to City Council to adopt these definitions. Those are supportive housing, supportive services, target population, transitional housing, and we've also updated the definition of family, which, as it says right now, means an individual or 2 or more persons related by blood or marriage or legal adoption. And it would now say family means 1 person living alone or a group of 2 or more persons living together, whether or not related to each other by birth. So these terms are all consistent with California zoning code. And that's where they have come from. This has been reviewed by the attorneys and recommended by Planning Commission. That's it.
How old was the existing language? I mean, I'm just wondering when I say excluding servants being struck finally from the record, that's how old is this language? Let's begin with council comments. Peggy, we'll go with you.
I have none. I support the Planning Commission and the work they did. They spent a lot of time going over this, and I attended those meetings, so I know the work that went into this.
It's in its language. This is all language stuff, so.
Yes.
Scott?
I have no comments.
Solomon?
I do have a couple of questions.
Uh-oh, you better I've got your spelling right.
No. No spellings. So what does this mean to our community? I mean, is it going to change
So all this
the way
does,
we live, or?
not at this time, no. So all this does at this time is just include these terms in the definition section of the zoning code. In the future, I will be bringing forward, where these would be applicable to different zones. So this may mean something in residential, but that hasn't been clearly identified yet, so we're not doing that yet. The state has kind of where the state is going with this stuff is a lot of programs are now able to be done by right in residential areas, as long as they have pretty strict guidelines for what that means. So as long as they're certified, so like homeless shelters or homes that are converted. But that's not what we're here to do tonight. Tonight we're just adding the definitions. We will go over more thoroughly, what we're permitted to do.
Okay. So we don't have any applications or anything?
No,
for this
this
kind
is just
of
updating. We'll do an update on the housing element in about a year or two. And so the goal for staff is to correct anything that was identified in 2015 to be changed.
Yeah, this sounds like the program which Pastor Andican has, the man restoration, so which you guys, Planning Commission, approved some time back.
So,
is it kind of something similar to this?
So his program wouldn't have qualified because he doesn't have a certified professional that runs the organization. So you would have to have some kind of certification for whatever the requirement is. So if it's some kind of licensed counseling or psychologist, so they have very strict requirements for what that means. So those kinds of projects that are church-based, would still continue to come to us with a conditional use permit.
Thank you, Ms. Perla.
Sorry, Mayor, can we go back for a second? Now, this is going to be silly, but I was asking you, and I was not going to say anything, but family means one person living alone, comma, or a group of two. The phrasing there.
So when you think of family, think of single-family residential, right? So single-family residential could be one person living alone in a home.
That's exactly what I was reading it too, is they're trying to clarify if you talk to SFR, you may not have more than one individual.
If I may, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, would you please?
It's a tricky thing, and the problem is that when these words were originally, when people originally came up with these words for zoning, at the early 1900s, there was a very traditional idea of what a family is. So if I can respond to the thing about how could a single person living alone be a family, well, the idea is it has to be. Otherwise, if it's not a family, that means you would prevent that. That would mean that single person living in a house in a single family zone would be violating zoning. He wouldn't be allowed to live in that house because he's not a family. So the definition of family has to include a single person living alone, and it has to include people who choose to live together, not being related. So it's all about what can be allowed in a single family zone.
Okay, Lloyd. Roger that. Thank you.
Roger.
Let's move on.
Moving on. Okay. Any other council discussion? Any public discussion in regards to item number 9? Hearing none, I first need a motion to waive reading in full an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest amending the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding zoning code definitions.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
And second.
Now mine won't work. There it is.
5 ayes, motion carries.
And then secondarily, I need a motion to introduce by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest amending the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding the zoning code definitions.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is committee reports. Finances, you and I, we didn't meet. We felt we spent sufficient time in June discussing budgets at length, and there was no finance committee meeting for June, infrastructure.
We have not met.
Okay.
No, it was canceled. I'm sorry. That
Yeah,
was
it was
that was a
public, yeah.
misstatement. That was canceled.
Economic development.
We meet.
You have coming up. Quality of life also made a similar decision based on the holiday, and we had nothing new at this time until they got further into the budget cycle. The quality of life meeting was canceled. Just noting that if you're not paying attention, the city is staffing up, and there's more programs and recreation items coming out. I think they released 2 more this week with the tennis camp and another camp, and it's coming. Slowly but surely, we're staffing up. Next is RACVB. Megan? It is Megan.
They haven't met since our last meeting.
Okay. And then other committees, boards or commissions.
I have KernCog tomorrow.
KernCog. I just wanted to, Isaac, Leslie, and everybody else. Any others? No? Solomon, no? Okay. So, I got a chance to attend the Cal Cities meeting. Time was just working against us. They're going to be returning to in-person meetings in September. I think the bulk of the entire session was talking about legislation, and then more legislation. And then when we were done talking about legislation, we discussed how we should attack the legislation. That's what the focus is. It was interesting to see the growth of it, and it'll be interesting to get to the first, actual in-person again in September. But on another front, unfortunately, that is on Quad States. I'm sorry to announce that Jerry Hiller of Hiller Consulting and Management, who had ran Quad States for many years, passed away. Management of Quad States has been passed to Bill Lamb, who was an associate consultant at Hiller and Associates, or Hiller Consulting, and he's going to pick up where Jerry left off in regards to Quad States. I can tell you that Quad States remains vigilant in regards to Joshua trees, desert turtles, and anything else that lives or breathes that might be endangered or claimed endangered. So it was pretty interesting. It's an interesting group, but that's all I have for commissions. City manager report?
I have nothing at this time.
Future agenda items. Okay, well, the only thing I'm gonna throw like 3 of them at it. First is I've asked the chief, as well as just conversation. I want to have a conversation about commercial ordinance and commercial property actions. I don't know if it's going to take us a little bit to get there, but I'm going to tell you exactly my perception, which is I stop at the intersection of Bowman and China Lake, and I appreciate that Walmart developed a beautiful space, but a 3-foot tall tumbleweed at a certain point becomes a 3-foot tall garbage collector and needs to be adjusted and needs to be corrected. And I could probably name 5 different commercial properties like that where a lack of attendance to their shrubbery or to maintaining the shrubbery then becomes a garbage collector. And so I pull up at the corner of Bowman and China Lake Boulevard, and I want to look at Walmart, and what I really see is the trash collection across the bottom of the tumbleweeds. I know it's going to take some time, and we want to do it right. I just want to have at least a conversation about where that could go, whether we need more teeth in the ordinances, whether we need more actions, what we can do to make that a better. The second was, of course, I'm going to lose my train of thought, was a proposal that I've sent to the council as well as to the city manager about development of a unsung hero or unsung community hero type award. Not something that's given by our groups, but something that we individually as council members would have an opportunity to recognize somebody for their continued services community. I've said before and over again that one of the things that we have to improve on is our own message, our narrative, the story about what's so fantastic about this community. And this would just be another way of recognizing not the people we see every day, but the people that are doing a lot of work behind the scenes to make Ridgecrest as wonderful as it is. And then those are my 2 future agenda items. So.
Those appear to be probably appropriate to start off in a committee, not unless you want to bring them directly to council.
No, they're not specific agenda items that need to be brought directly to council. These are just things that maybe I'm misusing future agenda items, but I'm saying these are things that I've asked for discussion and looking into as future items that may come before this council.
No, I don't think it's a misuse. We'll just deliberate on that. I mean, this sounds like city org stuff.
City org for one of them for sure. It might even be both technically. And city org has not met in a while time, but I mean, I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but there's probably I've heard at least 2 or 3 different ordinances that I've experienced in my first 6 months that I'm like, well, what's it going to take to give that some teeth? So we might just reform city org to put some teeth into it.
Whatever you. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying I think we all want to start to combat the improvement aspect.
As a past member of the city org, when we were very, very active, I thought it was an appropriate committee that had the opportunity to address things that others couldn't. And I think this is a good time to activate city org again. And we've always, since we weren't able to meet, we thought, let's do it on an as-needed basis. But I think if we just set it up to meet, and if we don't meet, we simply cancel it if there's no need. And that way, things can go to city org without major reorganization. I like that idea.
So I guess there would be the direction item is at the next meeting, reorganizing the city org committee.
Right.
For the purposes of reviewing ordinances, since I know that there's no active city members currently, correct?
I think I
Or did we appoint?
but I
Did
don't-
we appoint?
So it was on an as-needed basis. I think that Peggy and Solomon were on, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was what it was.
Was
but
it that we made we assigned ourselves, but we didn't?
We didn't
we're
meet
not
because we said
formally
it was
meeting?
as needed.
So then it's not even an agenda item. I just would say we'd like to see city org come together at some point to look at ordinances in the future, after the city staff has had sufficient time to get some pieces organized on what I'm
Right.
asking. That's good. Okay. Mayor and council comments. Kyle, you get to go first. I keep going to Peggy because you were thinking.
I was thinking. I don't
And
think.
Peggy doesn't.
I just don't, and I don't think very quickly.
Gotcha.
No,
Gotcha.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
I just want to say a big thank you to Lions Club and Mr. Steve Morgan for a fabulous job done with the fireworks. It was an outstanding job, and they put all their efforts this time, so hope it is not the last time they are going to do, so hope they continue to do this. And also big thank you to Chris Lilly, who raised around over 11,000 by calling businesses to support these fireworks. So thank you very much for all your hard work on that. And one comment, Public Works, thank you for putting the stripings and traffic markings on the roads. I think you do that, right, your department? Thank you very much for doing that. But one thing I noticed, not a negative thing I want to say, but those are fading away, so I'm worried about the quality of that paint. So when you go on Norma, most of them are gone. I don't know why. So.
He just has to get his words in.
So on some of our newer projects, we use a different style of road lines. It's called thermoplastic. has its pluses and it has its minuses. The stuff that we use everywhere else on city streets is just your typical road paint. It's the standard paint that's used all over with reflective beads in it. It does wear a little more than the thermoplastic, but thermoplastic doesn't stick to as much, so it requires a little more maintenance, but it is suitable for all surfaces, and it's something that we as city staff can do. Thermoplastic, we don't have the means or the equipment to be able to put down. So what we maintain the roads with right now as far as paint is what we have the means to do in-house.
So we need to buy equipment, right?
If we wanted to use thermoplastic, but thermoplastic is a lot more expensive. So.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks for the clarification. That's all, sir.
That's it. Mr. Hagan?
So I just want to commend and congratulate our local police department for all their hard work and proactiveness in the community. And if you follow the paper, there's been a lot of cases and crime stopped, and we can congratulate you for that. And also on the local, county, and state level on some of the big proactive drug busts and you know, the big marijuana bust that they just had, and keeping the drugs off the streets. And my hat's off to you guys.
I only had one item, and I was going to echo Solomon's, but remember the Elks Lodge was involved in that with the Lions. So thank you to them, too.
I have three. First, I just wanted to thank the public that gave me feedback on my crazy pocket park idea. Obviously, that's not going to work. But it was great to get the feedback and to throw out an idea. And I just want to communicate that I thank you guys for giving me that feedback. Please continue to do it. That's what's going to allow us to throw out ideas, see if it works, and to find new opportunities. So thank you for that. I also wanted to express my thanks to Officer Kyle Cushman, who I got to ride around with for about 6 hours on the first. It was, I will tell you that about 50% of it was chasing down fireworks. And it leads me to my other point, which is I love the 4th of July. I cannot express, I'm going to say something else about the Lions, but it's a wonderful holiday. It's a great time to celebrate our nation's independence, but it is July 7th. Please stop. If you are setting them off, it was great. We celebrated. Please stop. I had at least 3 go off around my home at 3 o'clock in the morning, woke a 2-year-old up, woke the wife up. Guys, I appreciate everyone's desire to celebrate the freedom that we enjoy as a nation, but you are hurting our police department's time. They are chasing down people that are unnecessary, and I saw it with my own eyes. I mean, that was the most interesting part is literally they were doing drive-by launches. They would just drive up, set it down, light it, launch it, drive away, and then we got to drive over and clean up the fire that was left sitting there. And we're better than that as a community. So my appeal is let the 4th of July have been celebrated and let us move on. And please stop with the aerials or the illegal fireworks and the consistency of it for the benefit of your neighbor as well as for our entire community. Last, of course, the Lions Club and Ridgecrest Shoutouts effort. That was an incredible crowd. I will freely say I was incredibly interested in how different the demographics were compared to what I expected to see. And that was great because it tells me that our community is younger. It tells me that our community is family-oriented. It tells me that our community is looking at a future and is looking for events like this. But I want to stress one point that Mr. Birdwell tried to get across at the very end, and I wanted to share a story so that you guys could visualize it. At the very end of the show, after a 20-minute beautiful celebration raised from this community, over $35,000 poured into it by this community, Mike Birdwell stood up and he said, "Please wait, please wait, please wait, stop." Now everyone stopped for just a moment to hear the next sentence he said. And the next sentence he said was, "This is the last show." And with the word show, I saw about 50% of the audience turn and walk away. And what he was trying to get this community to hear is, this is the last show for the Ridgecrest Lions Club. Shoutouts is intending to try and bring this show back next year, but I'm telling you, they need volunteers. They need people today to get involved. If you want my phone number, you want Kyle's phone number, you want any one of our phone numbers, we'll put you in touch with somebody to get involved. We need the entire community support. And if you are going to make the assumption that it's just going to be there without your help, either a donation or a little bit of legwork, I got news for you. You saw the last show. So, with those, I'm going to say good evening, good afternoon, good night, and call this meeting adjourned at 7:13 p.m. since there's no bet tonight. I don't know, an hour 15. I think that's not bad for 9 agenda items. And I wish you all a wonderful day. It's a beautiful day in Ridgecrest. Good evening and have a great night.